Perfect. I think most people must be in now. So thank you for joining today's webinar. Today's webinar is on using opportunity pipelines to manage your sales process and improve close rates. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Kirsty Morris and I've been at Prospect Soft for 2 years now. I'm currently the Premier Customer Success Manager for Prospect Soft product within the Access Group. And I used to be an account manager before that. So on today's agenda, we're going to go through what an opportunity is versus a quote and versus an order, so you can get a little bit more understanding. We're going to look at pipelines, setting up pipelines, and what pipelines and statuses are used for. We'll also have a brief touch on document templates and how you can embed them into emails. And we'll look at the all-new Kanban mode. So at the end of the session, we will have a Q&A. So if you'd like to use the chat function to ask questions throughout, please do, and we'll cover them at the end. So first of all, opportunities versus a quote versus an order. So this is where a lot of confusion comes in on what's the difference between all of them. So we're going to go through that now. An opportunity would be for a more complex sale. So if your opportunity needs to follow through a set of processes in order to get to the end sale, you would log an opportunity under a contact. So you would say that they need to potentially, it would be unqualified, it would then be qualified, then you might want to send samples, for example, and then you would then send a quote, and then it would be closed won if that order is placed. A quick quote is usually to an existing customer, but that just needs a little bit of an update on what their pricing is. If they are unsure of a new product that they just want some pricing on, you can do a quick quote. And a sales order is where no quotation is required. Your customer's emailed in or called in and said, I would like to order 5 of these, and this is my PO number, or have given authority to place that order. You can then do it through a sales order, which takes you directly into the confirmation process. So I'll just take you through now a little bit of a demo, just to give you a brief warning. We do use a demo system that is called That's My Jam. So it's about selling jam products. So most of you will probably have seen this dashboard before. And these are the sort of dashboards that you can see around the CRM that give you a little bit of an overview. So creating an opportunity comes in under, you can use the global create here, where you have the opportunity level. You also can see quotes and sales orders in here as well. What we would often advise is to create the opportunity under a contact. If you create the opportunity under a contact, it means that when you're sending emails or sending follow-ups, etc., it's really easy to see who's responsible for that opportunity within that business. So I will just search for a contact, and I'll use Michelle Jury from Browns of Ipswich. So as you can see here, you've got your contact level. You can create an opportunity from the opportunities page down the side by going into opportunities and then clicking the add button. This creates an opportunity. And as you can see, the parent is already set as Michelle Jury. So therefore, you would be able to know that that person is then responsible for that opportunity, and that's who you need to contact. You can also create an opportunity from the add button at the top of any of these pages. So as you're in this contact, that add button over here sort of shows at the same time. So if you click opportunity here, it then takes you through and gives you the new opportunity page. So for this example, we'll do jam products that person wants to purchase potentially. It could have come from an emailing campaign and they want some more detail on what you're selling. So you would put jam products as a description. Obviously, the parent is already set, but you can change this to potentially a company or a different contact within this drop down here. You can then set the salesperson. So that is whoever's responsible within your business. So that would be me or a colleague of mine. And then the type. So that's what sort of opportunity is it based on. Most people either would select a type of product group, for example. So I'm going to go with jam making equipment. As you can see here, you've got pipelines. So these pipelines have been set up within the system already. You've got new business, repeat business, and customer resending quotes. So these are all of the processes in which your sales opportunities will flow through the business. So we've got one for new business. So any new business will follow that same pipeline and follow the same set of statuses throughout that till it's closed. If the drop down doesn't contain one that you would like, you can click configure. And that takes you to this page where you then can see all of the ones that you have configured or ones that aren't already there. So if you want to set up an entirely new pipeline, you can click add in the top. The description, I'll do jam making products. And then create. So that creates a basic pipeline. So for any jam making product opportunities, we would like to use this pipeline. So if you click on the pencil at the side, you then get a list here, which then shows a blank opportunity pipeline, which has no statuses and no closing statuses at all in there. So what we would then do is add those statuses in. So for example, we've got unqualified, qualified, send a sample, book a meeting, and then you can update that status and add them to this list. So that works if all of the statuses you would like to use are already in that list, and then you can just rejig and move them up and down into the order that you would like them to follow through that process. So once they're qualified, you may want to book a meeting and then you want to send a sample. If the status isn't here, you can then manage the list. So this is where you go into to create a new status. So for example, it could have already been used in a different pipeline, and then you can just add that in here and you can select it, or you create a new one. So I'll say send quote. I'll say send quote template because I know that one's probably not in there already. And then you click create. So that new opportunity status then fills into this list. As you can see there, send quote template is one that I would like to use. When setting up this status, you've got a few options. You have task required. So within the open statuses, we would suggest that a task is always required because you want your sales team to continuously follow up on those statuses. If there is if there is a status that doesn't require a follow-up, you can take the option and disable or have an optional pop-up window for a task, and that means that a task doesn't need to be set. But we would always advise, if you would like to follow up on it in a timely manner and get a notification, then it would be good to have a required task. This status is in an open state because it's not closed. It's part of it. We're sending a quote template out, so we know that that is still open. It's the closed statuses come from if you've either lost one or the sale has gone dead, then you would change that to closed. This is a neutral outcome because at the moment there is no real outcome as to whether it's positive or negative when you're just sending a quote. A new feature that we've added as well is a gutometer rating. So based on the status within the pipeline, you can say whether you're 25% likely to get that sale or if you're 50% likely to get it. So once you've sent a quote, you probably want to change that to 50%. So then the gutometer automatically changes when the pipeline status changes. You can allow editing, depending on your system settings. You may be able to edit these yourselves, or you might need to get an admin to do that. And this one is in use, so you can obsolete them if you don't want to use them, and then they won't show up in any drop downs. And then the status details. So these ones are usually used if you would like a little bit more detail on where you're at and what you've done on the back of that quote. So what type of quote potentially has been sent out. But what I'll do is I'll show you the lost status because that's got a lot more detail in the status detail here. So as you can see, it's a closed status, and then you have the status details here. So it could be that you've lost it on feature, on price, on competition, or another reason in which you can add that into the notes. So once you've set up your statuses, you can come out of here. And then if I go into the jam making products pipeline, I then go to add in here, and then I have send quote template. So that will appear in there and I can update my list. So then I'll move that down to say I would like to send a quote at the end of all of the processes. And then that's the pipeline created. So in the closing statuses, you would like to then add whether they're won, lost, dead. You can change these as well to either if it's cancelled or if the customer's ordered it. Ordered and won are very similar, as well as cancelled and dead or lost are very similar. So it's up to you in terms of your terminology. So once you've added those in, you can then close out of the configure. And then in the pipeline here, it will show jam making products. So that's the pipeline that I've just created. And the statuses are all listed here as to the path in which that opportunity will follow through the business. So I'll leave it as unqualified, and then I can change the size of that opportunity. Obviously, that gives you an idea of when the gutometer is calculating it. If it's 50% likely, then the up to 1,000 will probably show in all reporting as around a £500 opportunity. And the margin, again, up to 1,000. And the source could be anything to do with any marketing campaigns that you've done, any social media. If that's come through social media, you could select that. So I'll do that one, and then you create that opportunity. So once you've created that opportunity, you can then change it through the statuses. So based on where you are within that, you can then change that to, I'll jump all the way through to change to send quote template. And there you can see that a task notification pops up because a task is required for this. And I want to follow this up next week. And I'll select the date for next week. Save. And then that task is saying that I need to follow that up in 6 days. So that will appear in my task list here, and I'll get a notification to say, if you've got your notifications set up, that will say that you've got that to follow up today. The gutometer, as you can see, has automatically updated to 50%. So because I've sent a quote out, it's 50% likely that that is going to be a sold one opportunity. So in terms of document templates, we use these quite a lot within email, within emails. So you can go in and select an introductory email, for example. So if that is in an unqualified state and they've just made a brief interaction on your social media, you can then send them an introductory email and say, this is who we are. You can add attachments to that template, and then it will automatically populate all of the details within that email. After this call, we will send you some documentation on how to set those templates up. And we will hopefully be doing a webinar again on how to set up document templates correctly. But this is just an example. Obviously, you can see the brochures, the terms and conditions, catalogue and quote documentation is there. If you sent a quote, that's great. If not, you can just delete them if you don't want to send all of them out. But that is a standard template. And then you just click send. So then you can see that that email has been sent and it's in your activity pad there. So what we would suggest is trying to use our Save to CRM plugin for your emails to be able to save any interaction that you have with that customer. So anything related to this opportunity is saved in here. You can then go to quotes and orders, and you can send a quote on the back of this opportunity. So this is where the complexity of it comes in. So you're doing multiple levels. You're having samples being sent, you're sending out quotes, and you can do it all from the same opportunity. So anything that is related to that opportunity is actioned within this opportunity interface. So just to give you, obviously I took you through the levels of where to create opportunities, etc., and how to configure out of the opportunity window. If you do have system settings and you're able to go into it, you can go into system settings and then you can search for pipelines. Opportunity configurations are here. So you've got the opportunity pipelines and the opportunity statuses. And that takes you into where we were before without having to go through the configure windows within the CRM opportunity pop-out window. Again, if there are any queries that you have, we do have a Prospect Academy, which you can go and start learning on. So it's all very self-led and you can take yourself through that academy within the question mark area at the top of our CRM. And then you have the documentation. So if I take you into the documentation, we do have an area about the sales opportunity process. So these are documents that will really help you go through how to set up the process, the pipelines, etc. If you would just like a help guide on how to set up pipelines, you can search that too. And that will take you to using opportunity pipelines and setting up your opportunity pipelines. So now just to go back and show you our all new Kanban mode. So many of you have probably seen these dashboards. It's in the dashboard section on the left-hand side. You go to the drop down at the left-hand side of the name and you go to sales pipeline. So sales pipeline, based on your sales pipeline, you can have multiple different statuses as we've just created. And this is the process in which it will follow through the opportunity process. So you can see that this opportunity is within the customer resend quote pipeline, and booking a meeting, that opportunity is worth £2.20. If they're awaiting a PO, for example, you've got that opportunity is worth £9,569. And then you've got 300,000 worth of opportunities that are at the inquiry stage. So this gives your sales team a really visual way of knowing where they're at within their pipelines, and that could in turn make it really engaging for your teams to be able to use these and understand whereabouts they've got to do some work or what needs following up, and it's very visual. So that in turn will take you through into converting these into one opportunities. So this is where you can see the drop downs as well. So obviously dependent on the pipeline that you're following, you can change it. So these are all new business opportunities. These go through that same pipeline and you can see all of the ones that are unqualified. You want to try and get those moving through. And what you can do as well is if you know that you've actually sent a quote, for example, or sent a sample to this one, I can move that through and you just drag and drop and it changes the pipelines. Obviously, if something is, if the gutometer is set up, it will change that gutometer from qualified to send sample, and you'd like to see that gutometer rate go up. So the value of that pillar, for example, is going to be higher the further it goes through if you're using those gutometer percentages. So that's all of our Kanban mode, and that is a brief overview on how to use opportunity pipelines. So I will just go over to questions now.
Great, thanks, Kirsty. There's been a few coming in, so thanks to everyone putting those through. Do put your questions in the chat, guys. You know, we do encourage you to put those in, and we can answer those live, or we can kind of come back to you on a one-to-one basis. So, Kirsty, I know you've got access to the Q&A chat as well, but I'll just go through a couple. We've had some good ones from Greg that's come through. So, do the email addresses need to be inside prospect contacts? The answer would be yes to that. But yeah, Kirsty's gone along to that as well. And can you send a task to someone other than yourself, someone else in the company? Yes. So,
yes, you can. So I'll just go into that opportunity that I was just in and show you how to do that. So when you're setting the task, you've got a list of all of the users that are available within your CRM. So say if you want somebody in the samples team, for example, to send out a sample and they're responsible for that, you can then change it to that person and then ask them, please, can you send a sample for this to the customer? And then they have to action it because it's on their task list.
Great, thank you, Kirsty. That's really helpful. Also, just Lisa, yes, we will be sharing the recording to this, so yeah, feel free to pass that along to anyone in the team that wants to watch this back. So that's totally fine. We will do that after the session. We've got quite a few coming in here, so I'll let you have a read through as well, Kirsty. But so do opportunities, quotes, or sales always go under a contact rather than a company? I know you touched on that at the beginning, Kirsty, a little bit.
We would always suggest to do it under a contact unless there is any reason why you wouldn't. The best thing to do is put it under a contact so you know that they're responsible and they're the person that you do need to contact in relation to it. So the idea behind the CRM is so that everyone within the business can see any open opportunities that are available for that company and that contact. So if you're on holiday, for example, or off sick, then somebody can then follow up and access that and know which contact they need to email or send information to. So we would always suggest to try and do it under a contact where possible.
Great, thank you, Kirsty. Quite a few coming in, so that's good. So just having a quick read through.
So just on Lisa Kane,
Yep.
Can margin in the opportunity be expressed as a percentage? So
Yes.
at the moment, no, because it's just a ballpark, and sometimes you don't actually know the margin opportunity. You don't know how much of a percentage you're going to get, depending on if you're tendering for something, for example. So we always say, what sort of value is it at the moment? If you would like to be able to see that, I would suggest using our ideas portal to make a suggestion, which is available up here, and then click make a suggestion. So if you'd like to be able to see percentages, then I would make a suggestion on there and we try and get that into development.
And then Alex has asked a good one. So is there a plan to add quotations into the Kanban view? Typically ask our sales reps to follow up on any quotation over a set value. So it'd be good to have those in the Kanban style view. We are taking some feedback actually on Kanban, aren't we? And I think I don't know if you want to go back to the Kanban, Kirsty, but there's like a provide feedback button within there, or alternatively, like Kirsty suggested, probably the best way is to get it into that ideas portal.
Yeah, so I'll just cover, there's another question. So obviously, is there a plan to add quotations into the Kanban view? Yes, hopefully in the future. I would say that you'd really want to do that and add it as an idea, as Jess said. And just going on to Greg's message on how to get to the sales pipeline report page. This is, if you go to dashboards at the top left hand corner and then the little drop down at the side, you've got all of your dashboards here. So this is the overview dashboard, which is a standard as you go in, and then you can select sales pipeline at the bottom, and that takes you into the Kanban mode. So if you want to remove an opportunity in new business pipeline after it's been won, I would suggest that you don't do that, because once it's a closed one, it marks as won. So automatically it is a closed opportunity. So you don't need to take it out of the pipeline. If there is, obviously, if it's no longer new business, you would then just use the next pipeline in there. So it could be existing customer pipeline that you would create, and then any further opportunities would follow that because they're no longer a new business customer. So the idea is that you can then see how much new business on reporting, if you leave them all in that pipeline, you then can see further on down the line in 6 months' time, how much business have we got through this new business pipeline in the reports. So that's the best way to do that. So in terms of the gutometer to Cello, this is just like a sort of finger in the air type part of the CRM. So as a salesperson, you want to see if that is like, obviously 50-50, it's 50% likely going to happen, it's 50% not going to happen. You can change them manually. So if I go into Jam Products here, say if you have had a conversation and actually, even though we've sent a quote, for example, you then think, oh, actually, I'm not really sure that they're going to do that. You can drop that down to 25%, or you can type in here that you're 90% sure that they're going to do it because you've had a really positive conversation. So although the status pipeline automatically updates it if you set it, you can also override that within the CRM.
Thank you.
So for Ian, for those of us who are focused on servicing an existing customer base rather than new business acquisition and don't have a linear sales pipeline, how do we configure the system to best help us keep on top of non-linear consultative sales processes? So we would probably just say keep this the opportunity pipeline really, really simple. So unless it is something that you really, really need in a pipeline, don't add it in, because you'll get user fatigue. You'll get people saying, I don't really want to have to keep updating the pipeline just because I've sent an email. What you can do is just have qualified lead, sent a quote, sold. It can be as simple as you would like it to be, so that once it's in, sent a quote, you know that you're just continuously chasing that, and then you can get the updates from the tasks on that. So that's the best way to managing something that isn't quite as linear as this is what we've done here, this is what we've done there. You can also jump between the statuses as well. So your status, say if I've moved that into send quote template, but actually I need to send a sample, I can go and change it back to level 4. And that is you can just move it as much as you want within that. So if it's not as linear, you do then get an update in the activity pad of what you've changed the status to. So it will tell you, oh, we've sent a quote, but then we changed it to send a sample, and then we've sent it to send another quote, for example, and you can just switch between the two.
Yeah, and also just to your point, Percy, Ian, there's a lot of webinars coming up that are more focused on the sort of customer lifetime value piece, because obviously our CRM does the get more customers bit, but also the keep your customers for longer and increase that average order value and average order frequency. So yeah, there's quite a lot of functionality really that we've kind of honed in the system that would probably be something you'd be interested in looking at. So definitely keep an eye on those.
And then we have David Rogers has asked if you can see the emails that you've sent in Outlook. So the way that we do this is we've got an Outlook plugin. So you would click Save to CRM. I can show that in here. So obviously this is the one that I sent earlier. We've got a Save to CRM plugin, which you can then save to CRM, and it comes up with, you log in with your single sign-on, and then it comes up with all of the details in here, and you can attach it to a problem, an opportunity, a contact, for example, in there. There is a documentation on how to set that Save to CRM plugin up, and then you can just do that automatically. And then anything that you send out of the CRM will then just be logged on there automatically too.
Especially, I'll make sure I include that in the follow-up for you, David. And you can see also if you're using Gmail, we do have functionality for as well. So I'll send that guide too.
If a contact leaves the company, so I've got SS as the name. If a contact leaves the company, or you have a buyer and a buyer's assistant, you can either add the details in the summary to say that both people are contactable and this is the buyer and that's the main contact that you've put it under. If somebody leaves the company, you can simply change the parent. So if you're moving it to a new contact, you go to the dots at the top, change parent, and then you can select either putting it to a company or you can put it to a contact in there, and you just search for that contact and it moves it all out of that person that's now left into the person that is now responsible for it.
And also there's some functionality at the contact level. You can just mark that person as left company. So yeah, if you want to sort of keep all of their history, but just say that they've left companies, you don't want to market to them further, or you don't want to have any more contact with them, you can kind of keep that, but also mark them too.
And then just to follow up, Selo, I know you're around the guttometer details. There are documentations on our help guides on how to understand the guttometer. It is just a percentage of the total amount. So at that point in time, the percentage of that total amount is going to be 50%. I know that sometimes you can just leave it blank. You don't have to use it if you think it's going to be 0 or you think it's not as accurate as you need it to be. But the guttometer there is just as a guide to say, this is how much my pipeline is worth currently. But it's not sort of hard and fast. You don't need to use it. You can use it or not. Marcus, is it possible to disable the value of an opportunity is calculated by adding all quotes? Because sometimes you need to create multiple quotes in one opportunity. That does not mean they have. I'll try and answer this one. You can create multiple quotes underneath one opportunity. Obviously, that then means the guttometer is different because it will calculate all of them, but you can cancel the quotes once they're on there. If you know that it's not going to come to fruition, you can take that off and then it won't be calculated in the overall guttometer of that opportunity. I hope that answers that one. Damien, are there any plans in the future to add a print functionality? Jess, I think this is in our ideas portals so far, so you can go in and vote on that to be able to add a print option.
Yeah,
currently there isn't a print feature within an opportunity. It depends on what part of that opportunity you want to print, whether it's the quote or whether it's the activity or whether it's just the overall print so that you can write on it, for example, or send it out in the post. Would probably use, if you wanted to print a quote, you would probably set up a document template that had that quote detail on it and then print that document out.
Okay, maybe we'll answer one more, Cassie, and then we might have to take some of these just off the line.
Yeah. Perfect. So if I go to the analysis drop down, why can't I see it? Jess, where's the analysis drop down? Here we go. Categorization, analysis.
Yeah.
This is just another category that you can add within your process. So if you, I don't know, we categorize it as jam making equipment because that's the type, and then the analysis on there is something different. We just use that within that system. There is a document on that, so I can send that over to you after the call to give you a little bit more detail on what to put in there.
Yeah, exactly. As Kirsty says, it's just improving your reporting. So you might have a business that operates in maybe different sales areas or product groups. So it might be important to kind of differentiate between these types of these different types of opportunities. So again, as Kirsty said, I'll pop the specific help guide on the analysis stuff if that's useful for you. Okay, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Kirsty, and thanks for attending, everyone. Really appreciate it. As I say, the recording will go out to everyone who has registered. Feel free to share it with any colleagues. And yeah, keep an eye on the webinars page. There's lots of webinars going up there, lots of new topics, and we are taking suggestions for webinar topics that you'd like to see. So definitely submit those. And yeah, thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Kirsty.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for joining.
Thanks. Bye.